What's going on? What's going on? Social media, man. I wanted to come on, talk to you for just a moment um, about this tragic death that has occurred in our nation once again due to police brutality, if you will call it that. But I wanted to come on, talk to you for just a moment. I know it's late, but I really felt impressed in my spirit to make this broadcast because there's so much going on in the world right now, man. So many great injustices, um, and they've been happening for years, right? It goes without saying. But when I look at this case, this Tyre Nichols situation, my heart first and foremost grieves for the family of Tyre Nichols, because he's no longer here, and it's a situation now where you have a whole bunch of people involved that literally, if they could, I'm pretty sure would take back everything that occurred the night that he was in fact pulled over for reckless driving. Having said that, man, I've seen a lot of talk on the media. I've seen a lot of stories being propagated by these officers that, in fact, were involved. And I'll just say this: I'll be the first to admit when officers, or anyone really, is someone who I feel like is performing injustice against humanity, who is kind of usurping their authority and acting out of character, if you will. However, in this situation, I'll say this: there are multiple things that I do concretely disagree with when it comes to the way the officers went about handling their situation in regards to trying to detain Tyre Nichols. But they're not animals. They are not animals. At the end of the day, I really do believe, and this is why it's important for us as people, right? I mean, we're all going to have our perspectives, but it's important for us to do our own due diligence, come to our own conclusions without necessarily having to bash one another or criticize one another for having those conclusions. I don't think there's anyone here that is disagreeing with the fact that Nichols' death is tragic. No one disagrees with that. No one disagrees with the aspect of the officers, for example, having you know weapons and things of that nature at their disposal in order to perform their job, which is to protect and serve the community. No one disagrees with that. However, when videos such as the one we have seen in regards to the death of Tyre Nichols and how he died and the situation that led up to that is released to the public, what happens is that a bunch of opinions begin to get swayed in regards to how they went about handling the situation. And so, handling the situation in the way that they did, I will say, from my perspective, from my opinion, they could have done better. They definitely could have done better. But, you know, a lot of us that are criticizing, that are watching these things, we can't even fathom to begin what it's even like for a person to be in a situation like that, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist. And I'm not talking about just a 30-second clip you may have seen on Twitter or scrolling on your Facebook feed. I want to encourage everybody to go to the actual videos that are on the memphis.gov website. And there is no way, after watching all four of those videos, that you cannot witness that situation being a very high tense, high adrenaline based situation. Like, it's a lot going on, man. It's a lot going on for any person, really. And so, with that being said, I believe against their better judgment, a lot of these officers acted very abruptly, acted very and rationally in some cases. There was a point in the video where it's clearly seen as one of the officers, or several really, begin to punch Tyre Nichols. And again, I believe they were trying to punch him based off of the video I've seen, not to necessarily kill, like I don't think they went with the intent on killing that man. I just don't believe that was the case. I think they were trying to detain him because for whatever reason, whether it was drugs or just strength or what have you, the man was very hard to detain. And again, according to how they perceive the situation, which we do not see in either for the videos that we are presented, we're just dumped into this heightened situation. So we don't fully understand, the magnitude of what this guy was doing in regards to his reckless driving, right? One of the officers in one of the videos is quoted by saying he was driving on the wrong side of the road and they tried to pull him over. They were on the siren, but he was evading the officers and, came to a stop at the light, which is what we see in video one. Boom, they come out, they're all hyped and everything. And so it's again, we're picking up, not knowing fully, concretely what happened. And it's amazing because with the body footage that we are seeing, the ones that we need to be seeing, in my opinion, are the two officers that initiated contact with them. We need to see from their perspective what was going on, because one begins to say that, hey, he was reaching for my gun. He also swung at me. So again, when you have officers saying things like this, not saying that they don't lie, not saying that they don't, try to make up things to fit their narrative, because that's people. People are always going to try to do that, right? However, we have to remember these guys are required by law to record themselves in interactions like this. So if they are able to record themselves, and us as the people are going to receive this footage, right, of what's going on, it would only make sense for us to also receive that footage as well, so we can concretely conclude, hey man, if they were just coming to this thing completely irrational, or are they now, because the fear is, especially when you're in a position like that, you got somebody driving on the wrong side of the road, they're not only a danger to themselves, but they are a danger to people around them. You know, not many people, well, I wouldn't say not many people, but I myself have known a person, right, that has killed an entire family as a result of a DUI. Um, well, he was driving under the influence and, yeah, driving on the wrong side of the road on a highway, and he killed somebody. And so the thing about it is that you don't want people to get hurt off the strength of someone who's just being reckless, who's being careless. Having said that, that's not a justification for brother Tyre Nichols to lose his life. That is not a justification for him to be beat abruptly and to be beat beyond him being even considered to be a human. Those are not justifications at all. However, we have to understand that with the adrenaline going and things of that nature, I believe these officers were trying to uh, really react in a situation that was going to keep the public safe at the end of the day. And again, terrible, terrible decisions in regards to even the manner that they started addressing the guy, right? They started cussing at him. And, again, it's Memphis. So there is also a cultural dialect there that, other parts of the world may not necessarily get with, right? And on top of that, you know, it's easy for somebody who's in a newscast room to sit here and call these brothers animals when you're not in their place. You're not in a you've never had to deal with people in the public before, right? And anyone who has a job where they're dealing with the public will tell you that, hey man, certain people act extremely crazy. And so, having said all that, when we look at Tyre Nichols in the video, it's also apparent that, and again, go watch the video. I'm not adding anything that is not in the video. So go watch all 4 videos for yourself, come to your conclusions. Don't just take my word for it. But after watching all four videos, it's very apparent that he's evading arrest or resisting arrest for some reason. For what reason, we don't know. He could have very well have just been afraid, and it could have been a situation where he merely was responding out of fear, right? So now he's trying to run, he's trying to do these things, and you know, that's that. However, you know, the average person in that situation, when he's surrounded by cops, isn't necessarily going to be so quick to run, you know, because they would be in fact afraid of pretty much experiencing what happened to Tyre Nichols, which is, losing your life or, worse, catching additional charges, especially if you know that you are in the wrong. And so with this situation, I clearly see in the video the officers time and time again are telling him to not only get on the ground, which he's on the ground, but to lay on your back, put your hands behind your back. He did not want to do that. So as a result, they're led on this chase now, this long chase. They tased him, they pepper sprayed him, all of which are not effective. According to the videos, they even, they pepper sprayed themselves by accident, right? So again, this guy, for whatever reason, is he's uncontrollable. He's becoming a lot for five officers to handle, which goes back to the point that I was making earlier in regards to, you know, from my perspective, what probably could have been done better. I'm not sure what type of training is in place. While I do know several police officers, I actually have one family member that used to be a police officer. I'm unfamiliar with the training that they should receive in situations like that. However, from the outside looking in, you would think, five officers shouldn't have a problem sedating one man. But, hindsight again is always 2020. In that situation, in that moment, we do not understand what was, impairing them from in fact sedating him properly without having to use their fist or what have you. Several of the officers were mentioning the fact that, the dude was strong and they felt as if he was in fact on some type of drug. This was their assumption, and I'll be honest, when I saw it at first glance, not making him out to be no criminal, not making him out to be none of that, but the way he was acting, his behavior was in fact in line with someone who wouldn't be too far off from being influenced by drugs of some sort, right? And there are drugs, man. There are drugs that, in fact, they stimulate your body to perform at a higher level, higher tolerance level. I know back in 2018, there was a thing called Flakka that, it basically it caused you to act inhumane almost, but it was a mix between bath salt, um, cocaine, and ecstasy. But the three mixtures of those drugs, in fact, also, you were able to pretty much have enhanced strength, if you will. Okay. I remember reading an article about this way back when, and I'll go ahead and probably tag it to this video as well, where in that situation, it literally a dozen police officers could not detain the person that was in fact on this. Not saying that Tyre Nichols was in fact on this drug, but what I am doing is trying to give you a perspective here that is different from what is being portrayed. Because see, I'm not one to just get on the bandwagon, especially given, all of the parties involved here. You know, I'll be the first to say when an injustice is done wrong against whoever. I've come on this broadcast before and said that, but I'm not going to just immediately go to attacking these brothers and saying that they're animals, that this was senseless, this was, because that I don't believe that was their intention. I believe, in fact, their overall intention was to detain this man, to get him to the precinct so that they can get home safely. Overall, I think they wanted to go home just like Tyre Nichols wanted to go home. Unfortunately, Tyre Nichols didn't get that opportunity. And that's what's sad. That's why the world is mourning. But instead of, again, criticizing these brothers, calling them racist, because, and that's the thing, you know, these guys at the end of the day, they have a job to do. Their job should accompany training that enables them to execute it properly. However, you know, the world, the world's a very unpredictable place, man. And sometimes there are certain situations that you just aren't, you're just not going to be equipped for. But even in the midst of all of that, we have to look at the situation for what it is. I don't look at these guys just because they're wearing a uniform as Uncle Tom's. I don't look at them as the quote unquote problem. What I look at and see, however, is a bunch of brothers that's really the product of unfortunate circumstances. I don't think they wanted that dude to die. I don't think they wanted Tyre Nichols to die. And again, I didn't mean to refer to him as that dude to be derogatory or offensive. It's just, again, kind of part of the lingo that I was talking about earlier. Certain places, certain parts of the country that you are from, it's going to have a certain dialect. And so, with that being said, with this situation, these guys, while I do believe they will in fact be prosecuted, this was probably the fastest when it comes to this case right here, a case similar to this. This was probably the fastest charge that we have seen against police officers, compared to, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, just the different cases over the years. They wasted no time charging them. And I do believe, according to the laws in Tennessee, that a good bit of the charges are going to stick. Second degree murder, that's probably going to stick because according to Tennessee law, it doesn't have to be premeditated for it to be considered second degree murder. And because the autopsy did reveal the death of Tyre Nichols being resulted by excessive bleeding that we know was done through excessive force, there will be most likely a prosecution there. And so my thing is at the end of the day, we need to be praying for this man's family, Tyre Nichols' family. We also need to be praying for these officers involved because I don't believe if they could go back and do it over again, that they would have been on a malicious rampage, which they were. They weren't on a malicious rampage. They didn't go out that night with malicious intent. I think that they were just trying to execute their jobs, and in the process of that, they have became too rambunctious, if you will, which resulted in a untimely death of Tyre Nichols. So they're not animals, man. They're not people of no remorse, no regard. Because when you see the video, you can see the humanity of everyone in that situation. You can see the humanity. And again, to go back to the point of what I disagreed with the most in regards to, the officers using their open fist to pretty much get him to put his hands behind his back throughout the entirety of this process. And again, I'm not one to sit here and justify Tyre Nichols being dead, or I'm not here to justify the actions of them beating him to death. But when you really understand the truth of the situation, if that brother would have put his hands behind his back when they told him to do it, and he would have went ahead and, let them go ahead and detain him, he most likely would still be alive today. And I know for some people that's a tough pill to swallow, but the truth is the truth. And we know the good book talks about you will know the truth and the truth shall set you free. I mean, again, go watch the video. Feel free to come to your own conclusions. But do not try to hop on a bandwagon. Don't get so bought into media hype that you don't see the truth for what it is. I saw the video and it was bearable to watch. You know, there was a bunch of hype before the videos came out saying that, oh, it was going to be uh, too graphic. It was going to be on the level of Emmett Till and things of that nature. I believe these videos for people who are wanting to watch from an analytical perspective, again, a non-biased perspective, but extremely, analytical, they'll be able to watch these videos. And unless you've never seen someone punch someone before, then maybe you may feel some type of way about it. But whatever the case may be, I do want to encourage you to go watch these videos and begin to look and see on both sides, even though it's wrong, even though it's messed up, that Tyre Nichols is not here no more. I will forever emphasize that. And I really do hate it. Watch the videos and you can see for yourself, man, that this was just an unfortunate situation all the way around. I don't look at them brothers as the quote unquote problem, right? I look at really a system that's in place here that, for us, even for a situation like that, we don't have, if we don't have proper recourse, proper training to be able to, sedate an individual without having to use excessive force in moments like that, then yeah, I think there's a problem. But see, the thing about it is I can't even sit here and just completely disregard them as being in the wrong because they did tase him. In fact, one of the guys even mentioned, and we saw in the video, after being tased, again, for whatever reason, if it was because of the influence of drugs or whatever, he took the tasers out and began to run. So my thing is, okay, well, if you've been maced several times and you're still not complying, if you've been tased several times and still not complying, at this point, the officers do, especially when you're resisting arrest like that, they're in the right to have an entitled belief that you may be either on something or you could potentially be a danger to me, to you know the people around us, because for whatever reason you are resisting being detained. A person who is innocent is not going to respond in such a manner, and it's just a matter of fact. Unless that person is, scared beyond belief and have never been taught properly how to train, how to act in a situation like that. I mean, I've had my run-ins with cops and things of that nature, and by the grace of God, I'm still allowed to tell it. I'm still allowed to talk about it. And so, you know, each and every person is different. Each and every person is going to have different experiences. There's going to be different encounters we have. Have I had weird encounters with cops? Yes. Yes, I have. As a black man, I have. But I would be remiss to sit here and say that all cops are the problem because of that. I don't believe that. I think we have some really good ones here in America. I think we have some good ones just all around. But it's going to take us coming together as a people to effect positive change in our community, man, to fight for policies that's going to, in fact, they're going to, in fact, put us in a better light in regards to our relations with police in situations like this. But again, do not let a situation like this divide us even more or cause us to be more emotional or in an uproar. Look, I don't need Don Lemon sitting here telling me, how graphic a video is before I, can come to my own conclusions about a situation. I don't need you telling me to protest peacefully and all that. Let me watch the video and I'll come to my own conclusions. that is that's pretty much what's going to happen anyway. But when we're doing all of this excessive pushing of yeah, the videos graphic, the videos this, the videos that, and not letting people come to their own conclusions, I believe that that is what in fact is part of the problem here. You're trying to condition me to see this a certain way when, you know, I'm an individual. I'm gonna have to look at this, you know, from my eyes, from my perspective, and come to my own conclusions. Unanimously, the world says the death is tragic. The death shouldn't have happened. Unanimously, the world says justice must prevail because there's an unlawful death here. And again, according to the laws of the land, it looks like justice is really going to prevail. Second degree murder, according to the state of Tennessee, in regards to how it happened, will in fact be a valid verdict if, you know, proven guilty. So, because of that, we really do not need to be in an uproar. There doesn't need to be a you know, an unrest, if you will. I get the unrest sometimes can come from frustration. It can come from just being upset because we find ourselves in this place again where a police officer is responsible for the death of another, really another black man, another individual. But again, I just do not view all officers as bad, especially, you know, in a situation like this where the footage has been released, and just because, again, that they're black officers and they are enforcing the law, aside from the hitting and all that, aside from the name calling, all that stuff, we take all that out. There's nothing wrong with them holding that position. And so sometimes in our community, what we'll do is, and I've seen it because again, I got family members that are that were police officers. You know, they'll be criticized as Uncle Toms. They'll be criticized as people who you know, can't be trusted. Like it's just a really negative perspective that black people, especially ones that know they be always into some trouble, some mess, they always looking at them with the side eye. But I mean, me personally, you know, if I'm ever in contact with a black police officer, for the most part, I feel comfortable because I got somebody that look like me over there, you know, trying to patrol or trying to handle business. And so those are the things that you look for or you look at when it comes to you know, where we're at as a society, even when it comes to you know, race relations and you know, different jobs, things of that nature. So again, I love everybody. I'm praying for all of you. If I made some enemies with this, oh well, it is what it is. I'm not jumping on the ship. I'm not just an avid CNN supporter. I'm not an avid Republican supporter. You know, I'll get on them too equally. You know, if you do something that I feel like it's just it's not right, hey, and God puts on my heart to say something, hey man, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And the truth of the matter is, you got several truths in this thing, some unfortunate ones, but the overarching truth, or one of the overarching truths in the situation, is that this was ultimately an unfortunate situation on all parties involved, including those 5 police officers. I hope to God that, for one, I hope God has mercy on their souls. And I really hope that in the midst of all of this, that they're able to find peace somehow. Because I can only imagine, especially when it wasn't your intent to kill somebody, I can only imagine how something like that would weigh on your conscience. So, again, I love you. I'm praying for you, especially those of you that are in my inner circle. And I know it's not easy to go against the grain. Um, it's easy to kind of hop on the train and just call these dudes monsters and animals and this and that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit here and let the media degrade really a bunch of brothers who probably worked their tail off to get to where they were at. And yeah, because of a unfortunate mistake, now they are the faces of police brutality. No, they're not the faces of it, you know. But we got to change. We have to continue to really echo unity, man. Echo peace, echo change in our communities. You know, situation like that. The answer never is to run, man. The answer is never to run away, because as long as you there in the same city, oh, they gonna find you. It's just a matter of time. Trust me, they will find you. And this ain't coming from nobody who, thankfully, I've never been arrested before. God's been good to me. You know, I know some of y'all may try to look and see the verify. That's fine. You go ahead. But no, I do understand though that, you know, when you resist arrest, it's just a matter of time before they find you, unless you got like that Pablo Escobar money where you can go overseas somewhere. But even then, it's like if you want it on that scale, oh yeah, nah, you ain't getting out. You become public enemy number one in most cases. You're not leaving the airport or anything. And so I'm talking about this, right? Um, Not necessarily from a place of joy, though you may see a smirk every now and again, but it's really from a perspective of understanding. The Bible talks about in all you're getting, you have to get understanding. Let's be people in this final hour to get understanding, understanding of this situation, understanding of the thoughts, understanding of perspectives. Because when you are able to understand a person's perspective, you can clearly see the way to move forward, not to necessarily please that person or that perspective, but to benefit all parties involved peacefully. So I think I'll go ahead and wrap up there. Again, I know this isn't a popular thought. It's going to go against everything that you're probably going to be hearing for the next couple of days. Um, I'm not sure if the autopsy has fully come out for um, Tyre Nichols, but I would also be curious. Um, I would be curious for a full autopsy. I understand excessive bleeding was also the ultimate cause of death, but um, again, the behavior that he expressed in a moment like that was extremely uncommon. And while my thoughts and prayers are with his family, above all else, I really hope that other black men that are watching this, that are seeing this, whether you're in the deep south of Alabama or you're in the far north of New York, you see this situation and you learn from it. And also be thankful because at the end of the day, you didn't find yourself in this moment, in a moment like this. Because just like, again, both parties involved, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, no matter where we're at, whenever we want to, we all just want to go home. So that's my prayer for you today. Go ahead and share this broadcast with somebody. Again, it's going to be a different perspective. But if it blessed you, I would really love to hear from you. Um, May get some hate comments, but it is what it is. I'm a grown man. I can take it. And yeah, stand by what I said. Love you. Praying for you. Talk to you soon.